One term that is often thrown around when it comes to GFuel is GFuel's old formula versus GFuel's new formula. So let's take a look at what changed and let's answer the question if GFuel actually works, if it's effective, and maybe you should go try it so you become a better Warzone player. Or Apex, whatever, you know, tickles your pickle. Hey guys, welcome to another video. If we haven't met before, my name is Luke, and as you might know, or might have found me, I make GFuel content. Here on the channel, over on Different Gaming channel, I actually use and test GFuel, and then over on Streaming Life Academy, I also write about GFuel. You might as well say my life is evolving around GFuel, but it is important to say that this video is not sponsored or I'm not affiliated with GFuel in any given way. Here's how the video is going to go. First, we're going to take a look at the old formula versus the new formula. What is different, if it's a good change or a negative change. Second, we're going to take a look at a few of the ingredients, the key ingredients that I think really make GFuel stand out, make GFuel what it's claiming to be, and some of the ingredients that are just kind of there for meh. We'll talk about that later. And then at the end of the video, I want to answer the question, is GFuel actually working? Might GFuel actually have something that could make you a better player, could make you hit that shot in Warzone that you missed so many times, but you still keep trying every single night and it just doesn't get any better? First of all, it is important to say that GFuel has changed their formula several times over the course of the last years. So there isn't necessarily just one old formula, there's a couple old formulas and then there's one new formula. But the main difference between the very old formula and the not so old formula is the amount of carbohydrates given in a single serving of GFuel. Depending on when you got started with GFuel, you might actually run into a tub that says 25 calories per serving, meaning about 5 grams of carbohydrates. If you are now looking at a not so old tub, about a year or a year and a half ago when I got started with GFuel, PewDiePie was my first flavor, this one actually says 15 calories per serving. And then if we take a look at the very new formula, well, it's still 15 calories per serving, so that hasn't changed, but that was the main difference. And if you want to know where those carbohydrates and those calories come from, that was actually my first GFuel video on this channel. It almost has 100,000 views, so thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it, and I will link it down in the description below if you want to check that out. But because of the purpose for this video, we are not taking a look at the top 1/3 of the label, which is carbohydrates, fats, protein, your general macronutrients. We covered that in a different video, and it's also just 15 calories, which is about 3-4 grams of carbohydrates. It doesn't really make that much difference. If we now go down the nutrition label a little bit further, we will run into some B vitamins, some niacin, some sodium. That also hasn't changed too much between the old and the new formula, and we will skip over that as well. Let's get right to the interesting part, which is the energy complex, the focus complex, and the antioxidant complex. And complex is the key word here when it comes to the old formula. When it comes to GFuel's older formula, which was used as about a half year ago or so, they actually didn't tell you too much about what is in a tub or what is exactly in a single serving. All it was telling you is how many grams or how many milligrams are in a complex. So with the new formula, and as an example, we're taking classified here, which is the newest flavor that I currently have, we can actually see that they got away with all of the complexes. Well, they actually got away with 2, the energy and the focus. They still have the antioxidant complex down in the bottom below, and we will get to that at the end. But for now, we actually get a list of all the ingredients that are in the complexes and how much of each ingredient is given in a single serving of GFuel. Let's get started. The first ingredient, and it's the first ingredient because it's in a single serving by the highest amount, that's how they list it in that order, is taurine. Taurine is given in 1000 milligrams or 1 gram per single serving. General functions of taurine are your central nervous system and overall cell health, helps with hydration, electrolyte balance, that kind of stuff. The recommended dosage for that is 500 to 2000 milligrams, and GFuel delivers 1000. It is more on the lower end, but I have to say it does fall within the range, and therefore it could potentially benefit you. The next ingredient on the list is L-Tyrosine, and I don't know why they made it 999 milligrams, why they couldn't just make it an even 1,000. However, L-Tyrosine is what is the most interesting for most gamers because it is the amino acid that is associated with increasing your alertness, your mental awareness, right? Yeah, like you're awake. You might hit a shot in a game that you usually maybe wouldn't. That kind of effect is what people hope for when it comes to L-Tyrosine. But here comes the cracker. Even though the recommended dosage is 500 to 2000 milligrams, again, just like it was for taurine, and with almost a whole gram in a single serving, GFuel does deliver on it. The most effect you get from L-Tyrosine, and if you take it over a long period of time, a single serving or a single use of L-Tyrosine doesn't really do much for your body. And actually, there's a study I'm linking you down below, which was done with the military. They gave them 2 grams of L-Tyrosine for a whole week to see changes, and in that they did see changes. So there is benefit to L-Tyrosine. It is dosaged more on the lower side, and if you're only taking it every once in a while, you might not get the benefit out of it. The third ingredient on the label with 500 milligrams is L-Citrulline. And if you are one of these people that go to the gym or competitively exercising, you might already have come across pre-workouts, and a lot of pre-workouts actually have L-Citrulline in them because L-Citrulline tends to widen your blood vessels, allowing for more blood to flow through, meaning it can increase your oxygen levels in the muscles, helping you with endurance, pushing out that last rep on the bench press kind of deal. However, with 500 milligrams, it is severely underdosed. You're taking a look at a common pre-workout, it usually is dosed between 2, 4, and 6 grams of L-Citrulline in a single serving. The pre-workout that I use, for example, has 6 grams of L-Citrulline in a single serving. With 500 milligrams, I wouldn't expect too much oxygen flow. Well, extra oxygen flow. The next ingredient on the label, which is the third ingredient, is caffeine, and that is something that did change from the old formula to the new one. They reduced it from 150 milligrams down to 140 milligrams. Nothing that really affects you or cheaps you out on anything, but it is 140 milligrams per a single serving. And we do have to say, while there isn't a recommendation for a daily intake of caffeine, there is an upper limit, and the upper limit set by the FDA is 400 milligrams a day for an adult. That being said, 140 milligrams in a single serving equals to about 3 cups of coffee, 2 espressos, in that kind of range, depending on how strong you make each of those. I would say that is actually pretty well dosed. If you are sensitive to caffeine and you are going with more than 140 milligrams, maybe 300 milligrams, like you can find it in the cans of GFuel or how you can find it in a Bang, a Monster, things like that, you might actually end up with the jitters, meaning that your heart is racing, you're overall not feeling well, you're feeling like you're having a heart attack, your hands are shaking, all these things that you don't want when you're gaming or when you're working, when you're trying to focus for a long period of time. Therefore, 140 milligrams, I think, is a really good dosage. It fits the majority of people, the large spectrum. If you need a little bit more, you can always go a scoop and a half, maybe 2 scoops if you're that hardcore, or get a can with 300 milligrams. If we now take a look at the rest of the label, it will become a little bit more clear what I meant earlier by dusting, or what I sometimes just call it adding fluff to the mixture. If we take a look at how much of the remaining ingredients is in there, it is non-significant. ATP salt, for example, 1 milligram, doesn't really do you anything. The byproduct of L-Tyrosine with 1 milligram, it doesn't really change anything, but it is on there. And it is the question, is it on here because it's a byproduct of something and it just happens to be in there with the production? Or do they add it in because they want to advertise for something and they just want to make the list a little bit longer? But in short, the remaining products just don't really do anything. And lastly, we have the Antioxidant Complex, and the amounts between the old and the new formula is the same: 26 milligrams in the old one, 26 milligrams in the new formula as well. Antioxidants, it's nice to slap it on there, it's natural, it's a little bit of healthy, but overall, eat your fruits and vegetables. You will get much more out of it than just trying to get all your antioxidants from GFuel. Let's address one last elephant in the room, and that is the lead content and the lead warning on the label, and it remains on the label with the new formula. I have made a whole dedicated video about the lead content in GFuel, and I will link that down in the description below. We've talked about it multiple times. If you are not willing to take the risk for lead in the product, simply don't go buy the product. Go buy something else. There's a lot of other products out there that don't have lead in it, that actually also mix so much better than GFuel. If you want to know how to mix GFuel better, there's a video down in the description below as well. However, the lead content comes from its natural ingredients, and there's a lot of food products out there with natural ingredients that actually have a little bit of lead in there because the ingredients absorb it through the soil. And in California, where this is manufactured, there is a law that requires them to put it on the label if it goes over a certain amount. Is it a safe to use product? Yes, GFuel is generally considered a safe product. It is not FDA regulated because it doesn't have to be. However, does it work? This is a really tricky question because there are so many things that play into a product working or not working, and a huge component of that is also just your mental aspect, right? If you drink GFuel for the very first time and you go into this with the expectations of, oh, you will become a better player, you might already play the game differently just because you are more aware, oh, I consumed something, I will be better. You are waiting for something good to happen, therefore you're already more focused on the game, and at the end of the day, you're just getting placebo, if you're better or not. But the state of mind already changed. Now, if you're drinking GFuel on a daily basis and then one day you're not drinking GFuel, and you might not end up doing so hot in a tournament or on whatever game you're playing, you might blame it on, oh, I didn't get my GFuel. But it is the same thing. Your state of mind changed, your routine changed. Does it really work? In theory, yes. It has some caffeine in it, it has taurine and L-Tyrosine in it, which are dosed in a good way, in an effective, potentially effective way. Therefore, it could work. Yeah, at the end of the day, GFuel is a luxury product, and if you have the money and you want to spend the money or even save some by supporting a creator, go for it. Spend the money. I have a whole playlist down below where we test different flavors, what is good, what is not good. As a rule of thumb, stay away from sour flavors. I have yet to find a flavor that advertises as sour that is not a complete sweet disappointment. Give GFuel a shot. If you're okay with the lead warning, it is a generally safe considered product. If you're not okay with it, go with something else. There's Rogue out there, GG subs out there. There is a bajillion and two, exactly a bajillion and two different energy drinks out there that you can use that all claim the same stuff. I hope I answered the question. I hope I answered the question for you. Does GFuel work? On paper, in theory, there is a reason for GFuel to work. Yes. Is it a clear cut, will it work for you, yes or no? Absolutely not. No, there's too much that goes into it. There's too much of a mental component that goes into it that changes from person to person. I hope you guys have an amazing day. If you learned something new today, make sure you give it a like, give it a follow if you haven't already, or subscribe wherever you're watching it. And I hope to see you guys next time.